What's up, friends? Today we're back with the next video in the Black Mamba series. And if you recall, the last video was me working on the battery and completing that. So if you're interested in that, go ahead and check that out in the iCard. But today we're going to be working on some more mechanical stuff, and that is mounting up this beautiful forged carbon fiber enclosure onto this deck that also has some carbon fiber in it. So today we're going to be drilling all the insert holes, mounting it on there, and then since I already have a whole video dedicated to that from my raceboard build, which you can check out in the iCard, I'm going to do the inserts quickly on video, and then we'll work on getting some of the electronics connected up. We'll probably drill a hole for the charge port, and we might do an initial test fit to make sure everything's going to fit in there properly, and then probably in the next video we'll work on getting it powered on and programming the VESC. So stay tuned if any of that sounds interesting to you, and let's hop straight into this video. All right, so first things first, we're going to be using Easy Lock inserts. These are M4, and they're the stainless steel version, which is supposed to be a lot better than the brass ones. Personally, I've never really had a problem with the brass ones, but people always tell me the stainless steel ones are nicer. So today we're going to be using those to mount into this deck. And I actually have another Hummie build. You've seen it in lots of wheel review videos, and I used 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I used 10 screws to mount that. So today we'll see what I will go with, but I'm thinking 2, 3, 4, 5, probably 10 screws will be enough again. We might go with an extra one on the front sides, depending on how I'm feeling. The main difference with this one is that this carbon fiber enclosure is definitely a lot more stiff than the one on my other build, which was fiberglass. So I think that this enclosure is going to stiffen up this deck a whole lot, but we'll see. So the plan is to do 10 of these stainless steel inserts. We might do 14, we'll see, but it's going to be a process for sure. And the way we mount these is using epoxy. So I'll drill the hole and then put epoxy on the insert and screw it in. Today we're going to be putting the squishy neoprene insulation onto the enclosure first. We'll tape the enclosure tightly in place on the deck, and then we're going to drill pilot holes through each of the spots, and then I will widen those holes out to the size that we need for the inserts, and hopefully that will work a little bit better than the way that I did it on my race board. So let's go ahead and get started. This is going to be annoying for me. I don't really like doing this part, but it's something that we have to do on DIY boards to make them look nice and clean. So I'm probably just going to dump this into a time lapse, and if I have anything to say, I'll do it in voiceover. Makes it a lot easier for me and probably a lot faster for you guys. Well, unfortunately, due to an inventory mistake, apparently this is all of the padding that I have right now. So I've ordered some more, and we're going to try to make this work today, but this will obviously not be enough to cover the entire outside of this enclosure. So I'm just going to put a couple strips on in key places and hope that that will be enough to space out the enclosure properly for now. But yeah, there you go. All right, so I got this placed on here. It kind of makes sense. There's still a lot of gappage, and the enclosure is not actually 100% perfect on the fit. So when I tape this down, I'm gonna have to try and compress it a little bit to kind of place it in a more accurate position. And then we'll be able to mark out our drilling spots and hopefully drill through here without any major issues. So we're gonna tape it down now, and then we'll mark out the spots to drill. All right, so I went ahead and prepped this for drilling. So I marked out my locations, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on each side, and then 2 on the ends for some extra strength. And because this enclosure is bigger than the other one that I used before, I managed to spill paint Sharpie all over myself, so that was fun. And then I went ahead and taped it off, which compresses the, what do you call it, the foam a little bit. So now we can go through with the center punch, pop each of these. Hopefully it won't crack the enamel, but we'll see, or the resin, epoxy, whatever. Get each of those drill points started, and then we can go ahead and take a smaller drill bit and pilot hole each of those through. All right, we got all those center punched. Now we will go ahead and start drilling. And one thing about drilling carbon fiber is that, one, it destroys drill bits, and two, it's definitely not something you want to get on your hands or in your respiratory system. So make sure you use a vacuum while you're drilling, and gloves are a good idea. So I'm going to go ahead and grab some gloves now, just so I don't get any carbon fiber particulate on my hands. So also, hopefully I have a drill bit that's sharp enough to drill this properly, because this will eat through the HSS drill bits that most people normally have. So let's see how this goes. So I went ahead and put some hard rubber underneath here so that this won't deflect while I'm trying to drill here. And we're just going to just go ahead and see how this goes. Oh wow, it was actually really easy. It seems like there's a lot of resin in here. Sorry, epoxy rather. And I guess that just goes straight through. So I'm gonna go ahead and drill a little bit into the deck carefully. And there we go. Now we have a hole that's lined up with the enclosure hole, and hopefully that will help a lot when it comes to lining things up afterwards. Now you can pull out the spacer, and I can see that there's a hole underneath there. So we're gonna go ahead and do that 13 more times, and then I'll be right back. All right, so you probably can't tell that much of a difference, but I went ahead and drilled all 14 holes around the enclosure, including their pilots, into the wood. And now hopefully when we go ahead and screw it all together later, they will line up properly. So we're going to go ahead and take this enclosure off, and we will drill out all the holes to the correct insert diameter. And then we'll mix up the epoxy and put all the inserts in. All right, so the drill is specified on the insert pack is 17/64. And usually it's a good idea to go with the exact one in here, and that's worked out pretty well for me, but I'm going to do the first one, install it, and then we'll double check that that's the correct size. But I believe 17/64 will be good. If not, the one above it will work as well, because we're filling epoxy in there to help hold the insert in. All right, so I went ahead and drilled out this first hole like you saw, and then I actually put in an insert to make sure it was going to work well, and it did, but I didn't put any epoxy on this one, so hopefully this one just won't come out. I'm going to go ahead and drill out all the rest of the holes to the correct size, and then we'll come back when we do the epoxy and put them all in. All right, so it has been overnight now, and the epoxy set enough on all these inserts
for me to try putting the enclosure on, and fortunately it's a perfect lineup. So that method worked a lot better than what I did on the race board, so good to see that. These are obviously not the correct screws to be using on here. All of these will get replaced with the correct length one when I do the final installation. But that's enough with this part for now. Now we're going to actually go ahead and switch out the connectors on this ESC. Right now we have 5.5 mil bullets for the higher current capability of this ESC, and Flipsky motors use 4.0 4mm bullets. So we need to switch all the bullets on the motors to the 5.5 mil size to make sure they fit here. And the reason we're doing that is because this 11 gauge wire that's used on the ESC will not fit inside of the little end part of the 4mm bullet. So we're just going to upgrade the size. All right, so I have finished all 6 of the wires. Got all the 5mm bullets, or 5.5mm bullets put on here. So now it's time to work on the system for the lighting. So here we have the alpha version of this power on switch, and we're going to need to connect this connector here, the one that says ESC-in on the PCB, to 5 volts from the ESC. And basically what this will do is it will turn on the output when it sees 5 volts at this input. So what we're going to do is use the receiver from this Zmote, and I had the maker of the Zmote specifically make one for me that has the trigger button on it, and it has this output on it right here. And this will output 5 volts when I press a certain button combination on the remote. And basically what we're going to do is hook this straight into the input on the switchboard. So basically whenever I press that button combination on the remote, it will turn on the lights. Now, because I'm not 100% confident in this all working properly, I'm going to also put a switch in this circuit, which will be this black latching push button switch. And this switch I'm going to put on the positive lead between the remote and the switch module, just in case for some reason I'm not able to get this turned off. I want to make sure I'm able to turn off my lights no matter what. So that's what we're going to do right now, and it should be pretty simple. All right, so I believe that this is all of the wiring we need now. This ESC is now hooked up to the wires of the motors after we swapped out the plugs. This will plug directly into the battery, and then we'll switch on using the included switch. I have my remote receiver plugged into the PWM port over here, which will provide 5 volts to the lights trigger board for when I want to turn on my headlights. And then I also have a little pigtail here that I soldered for the charge port that we need to go ahead and mount on the enclosure. And that's pretty much it. So now I'm going to go ahead and slap the battery in here, I believe, and see where I want the charge port and power button to go based on where everything lines up, and then we'll go ahead and drill the holes in the battery enclosure. And then after that, the battery is actually going to mount into the enclosure rather than onto the deck. So we're going to go ahead and figure out how to do that, and then we'll be able to slap it all together. And in the next video, I will program this VESC with all the settings that we need. And also in that video, we'll do our first ride. So make sure you get subscribed for that if you are looking forward to seeing that next part. But for now, let's do this final step. All right, now that we got this in here, you can see it is going to be quite tight, but should be able to figure it out. Now, got a couple things here. BMS is gonna go on top of the ESC. I think everything here is insulated. Yeah, so can put all that up there. ESC is going to end up somewhere about here. I'm not sure. I might double-sided tape this to the deck to keep it in place. Man, this is gonna be tight. Ooh, baby. Yeah, so ESC can go there. I think I might actually double-sided tape this right now, because it's going to be really annoying if I don't have it stuck in place while I'm trying to put all these other wires elsewhere. Okay, I know this looks crazy messy right now, and I'm not sure exactly how much I'm going to actually be able to clean it up when we put this in, but I've figured out that I want the two buttons to be on this side, about halfway between these two screw holes, and I want the charge port to be on the other side, about halfway between those two screw holes. So now when we go ahead and take the enclosure and carefully set it over the top, well, things won't fit because there's connectors sitting in the way. But yeah, we should have plenty of room in here. And now I get to figure out exactly what I'm doing with the battery, because I'm realizing that it makes no sense for it to be in the enclosure when it has to be connected to the ESC, which is now taped to the deck. So it probably makes more sense to Velcro this probably to the deck, which I have some Velcro, and we'll have the battery. Each section, I think, will have its own Velcro to be like semi-permanently attached to the deck. And then inside this enclosure, I'll just cover this whole bottom piece with foam, and I'll use a really good compression fit when I put the enclosure on to make sure that it doesn't vibrate around or move how I don't want it to. So I think next step, I'm going to put Velcro on here, get it situated in the enclosure, and then drill the enclosure for these 3 different accessories. All right, I got everything installed here. We got the 2 buttons, black one for lights, silver one for ESC, nicely installed here. And then we've got the charge port on this side. And on the inside, you can see the 2 switches sticking through and then the charge port here. Now these are going to get covered up on the inside with hot glue to make sure the nuts stay in place. We're not going to do that until we're sure that everything is working, because that's just bad luck. And always good to do a first run check anyway. So right now, that pretty much concludes all of the wiring for this video. And this is ready to get programmed pretty much. In the next video, I will be programming this VESC, and then I'll close it all up, put some foam on here, and think we'll be pretty much good to go. This is going to be really exciting, and hopefully you guys enjoyed this video and found it interesting seeing how all of this comes together and how tight this is going to be in here. Most likely I will just double-sided tape this BMS, and it seems that there's tons of room in here because this enclosure is super wide compared to the other Hummie enclosure that I've used in the past. So I'm not really worried about any of that. All right guys, we actually got a ton done in this video. It may not look like a ton, but we made some really big strides to getting this on the road, and there's only a couple of things left. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. It was just kind of an update progress video to get you guys familiar with all of this stuff in here, and really see exactly what it takes to do all the finishing touches on a DIY e-skate. So next episode, I've got a TPU piece that I'm going to be installing in the back here. I need to design and print that out to keep all the dust and stuff out. I'm waiting for my neoprene foam so I can finish doing the edging around here, and then that will happen at the end of next episode. But the beginning of next episode, we'll be programming the VESC. So if you want to know how to program one of these, be sure to get subscribed and stay tuned for that. But otherwise, hopefully you enjoyed. If you stayed to the end, thank you so much, and stay safe, keep on running, and peace out.